Hello, Jeff Zwaring here, and welcome to Give and Take, the segment of our show where we talk about neat and interesting scientific ideas and see how they interact with the truth of Christianity. Today we're joined by Pat Mcguire, and we're going to explore the consequences of rising carbon dioxide on the Earth. Pat, it's good to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Jeff.
So just kind of by way of reminder, I know you've got a background in mechanical engineering, master's there. You've done a lot of work in petroleum engineering. How do you extract oil from deep in the earth? And along with that, you get to study the consequences. One of the consequences of extracting oil is that we've put some carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And so kind of start the question, is the amount of carbon dioxide rising on the earth, and is humanity contributing to that?
Yes, indeed. I'm actually on the Carbon Advisory Council for the Society of Petroleum Engineers. And since burning oil and gas causes a lot of carbon dioxide emissions, this is very near and dear to the Society of Petroleum Engineers.
So it's clearly increasing, and obviously humans have a contribution to what's going on there. I guess, so rather than worry about whether we're quibbling over whether that's going on, that seems pretty well solid and established, if you will. I guess the bigger question I have is, how big a deal is the rising carbon dioxide levels on the Earth?
Well, that really is the big question. There's no doubt that it's going up. We've got the measurements in Mauna Kea, the big volcano in Hawaii, and also in the heart of Antarctica. So we know globally the CO2 is going up. And the real issue is that good or bad?
Yeah. Because we've got a lot of indication that it's causing the temperatures to increase. So initially it seems like that's a bad idea because we're changing things from the way they are, the way nature would have them, if you will.
Okay. And the best answer for that, I think, is to look at the geological context of what CO2 has done through the Earth's history. And there's a particular graph I really like. It shows the CO2 concentrations for the last 600 million years in the atmosphere. And one of the things you observe immediately from looking at that data is that we are in a very low point historically, geologically, for concentrations of CO2 in the atmosphere.
So over the last 600 million years, historically, carbon dioxide levels have been much higher, and presumably they've been dropping. Is it just kind of a steady drop, or has it been more sporadic?
Well, it's interesting because it's been kind of overall a steady decline from maybe 3,000 or 4,000 parts per million CO2 down. Now we're at about 400.
Okay.
But fact is, we're lower in CO2 right now than it has ever been in the history of planet Earth, except for the Carboniferous period, which is about 300 something million years ago.
Okay.
And that's the point in time at which all the coal deposits were laid down. The geologic age was actually called the Pennsylvanian after all the Pennsylvania coal deposits.
Okay.
But the CO2 took this huge dive.
Presumably because it was all being sequestered in the coal.
Because it was
correct?
all being sequestered into these gigantic layers of coal.
Okay.
And nowadays, when a tree falls in a swamp, there's a lot of critters, bacteria, that would like to eat that tree and recycle it.
Okay.
But one of the leading theories is back in the 300 something million years ago, the bacteria had not yet evolved the enzymes necessary to attack cellulose so it didn't decay.
So that's why you end up with these large
and then all of a sudden the CO2 spikes upwards.
Okay.
And so it looks like life kind of took care of the coal deposits after a while, and now we're back on this high level of CO2 that's continued to decline.
So what happens if the carbon dioxide gets too low? What are the consequences of that? I mean, it seemed like you extract it, things get cooler, keeps things from getting hot at least, and that's a good thing.
Well, interestingly enough, you can extract so much CO2 from the atmosphere that you get yourself in serious trouble. And in about 15,000 BC, and people were around during this time frame,
right,
we came this close to the greatest mass extinction event on planet Earth. The carbon dioxide levels got down to 180 parts per million. So
little less than half of what they are today.
Little less than half of what they are today. And that's the lowest CO2 ever recorded in the 4 billion year history of planet Earth.
Okay.
The reason that's important is because at 150 parts per million, most plant life on land dies. So we were 30 parts per million from extinction of most of the plant life on land, at least.
So all the plant life dies, a whole lot of other things die because of that, correct? So
Basically,
this is major mass extinction type thing that we're talking about.
Big deal. If that happened, then you lose essentially all of the plant life that we eat and essentially all of the plant life that most animal life eats. So this would have been a real, this would have been a bad time on planet Earth. We got that close.
So that kind of puts the rising carbon dioxide. It seems to me to have a flip side of that effect is that while yes, the temperatures may go up, increasing carbon dioxide presumably would contribute to more food production or more plant production, which is food production for a lot of the Earth.
And actually, that's a huge issue. This temperature increases is one issue, but another huge issue is feeding 8 billion human beings on planet Earth. And crop yields, they go up dramatically as the CO2 level increases. And actually, human agriculture was not possible until we hit about 250 parts per million. So when you look at it, agriculture emerged in South America, China, Middle East, Europe, all around the world when the atmospheric conditions reached 250 parts per million. And now we're at a little over 400 parts per million, and the crop yields are up maybe 30% from what they would have been then.
So an increasing carbon dioxide level, so you got this kind of two competing effects. The temperature is going to go up, but our capacity to produce food is going to go up. And people need food, so that there's this good part and this bad part. So how do we wrestle with that?
Well, it's an optimization problem, and engineers are trained to optimize things. And my favorite example of optimization is a laptop computer.
Right.
Now, I'd love a 36-inch screen on my laptop. That would be great, but it won't fit in my backpack.
Right.
But if I make it really small, my eyes aren't what they used to be. I can't read a small screen, and I can't type on a small keyboard.
But the battery will last for a long time.
And if I want to have the battery last on my 15 or 20-inch laptop, if I make it where it'll last a week, it's so heavy I can't carry it. So you have to optimize all these things to get to a global optimum. And that's, I think, the approach we need to take for carbon dioxide emissions is at what level does the temperature increase become serious, and how in the world am I going to feed another billion people? So it definitely becomes an optimization problem.
You know, it's interesting. Your comments are related to kind of two things. One, we want to take care of the planet, but two, we also want to take care of people. You know, the Bible talks about how we're stewards of this creation so that we can take care of people as well. And so your comments here even just reinforce the way the Bible has described our role here on earth. And I just really appreciate your comments, and thanks for joining us today. So, you know, when we look at global warming, we tend to get divided into political camps as to whether CO2 and increased temperatures are good or bad. And I like what Pat's comments were about how to look at this from an optimization problem. And how do we be good stewards of this creation that God has given us? We obviously want to take care of people, and so rising crops help us do that well, but we also want to take care of the planet. And so how do we do that well? You know, I would encourage you to go to reasons.org. We have a page where we talk about global warming, where we separate some of the political issues and we really get into the theological and the scientific issues. So if you go to reasons.org, search on global warming, you will get some resources that help you understand how to navigate that and to be able to bring the gospel into your conversations about global warming.